Welcome to the Student Station podcast with Liana Verbos, Brian Davis, and Omayra Martinez-Girau. Tonight we will be discussing the pros and cons of living off and on campus.
Thank you, Liana. Like Liana mentioned, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living off and on campus. Right now, we know that many colleges requires living on campus due to a specific requirement is hit. In other words, that means that some colleges going to ask the student to actually live in campus for a certain time, depending on if they're full-time or half-time. I actually found out an article on according to Sarah Wood from U.S. News. First-year college students can be expected or required to live on campus. Some institutions don't give a choice. Sometimes the institution actually requires that the student is living in campus. It doesn't matter if they're actually going to be a first-year student or if they're going to be a fourth-year student.
Omayra, now have you ever experienced any situations with your daughters living on campus at all in college?
Actually, I have. My son actually moved to Georgia and he attended university for a while. And it was a situation that we didn't have the means to actually pay for it, so he had to withdraw from school because it was too expensive to do so. Okay. It was not even, they didn't even have a financial aid or something like that it would cover the amount for the housing that he was required to live on.
Was he only there for one semester?
He was there for one semester and then he had to withdraw, yeah.
So it seems like the cost seems to come into play a lot of the times, and with the requirements of having to live on campus for the first year.
And it was something that it is important for me as a parent, and he too, because he's an adult, to check the requirements of the school, which we did not check. So in that point, he was already there. He was going to live with one of my friends in the house, so we didn't even think about the school requiring that kind of living in campus in that point. So that was something important for a student, I think, so they need to actually check before even enrollment in school what they need to do.
Now, do you know any of the percentages of students that actually live on campus?
Well, I actually found out, according to a journalist, Rebecca Tivanan, she is from the University of Texas. She found out in her article that four-year no-profit private college is almost 60% of students live on campus, while the percent is much lower for students attending 2 to 4 years in public college. So that means that no-profit private college may have funds to help the students more than a public college.
Okay.
Do you know what percentage is the non-freshman year that's living on campus, or is it mostly just freshmen?
It's most freshmen. Usually the college require them to live in that first year on campus, but also I found out that there are some schools that require them to be there the whole full year. Yeah, depending the school, they require it differently.
That seems like a lot, because a lot of the times you want to have the freedom to live off campus, especially after your first year. You're like, okay, I've gone through being a freshman, and now you're sophomore, junior, and senior year. You get to go find an apartment or move out of those dorms and have the freedom to do so.
Correct.
Yeah, not to mention most of the tuition payment is the room and board too.
Yeah.
Correct, but that's something that many students don't know also when they actually fill out the FAFSA. Some of the funds can be actually used for rent, and it may not include the utilities and other things that are included in housing, but they can actually use it for that. And I want to mention Central Penn College also offer a housing scholarship opportunity for current and future students. So they will have a choice as long as they actually apply for the scholarship. The only thing about this is it's not going to be like something that's going to be there. They had to qualify for it, and it had to have room available for them to be able to have the funds for the housing. Now, I actually checked in the website for Central Penn College, and I see that this is include full-time or part-time students up to the age of 30th. They had to be 17 plus years of age. The student had to be full-time. Students can qualify up to $11,616, and part-time students can qualify up to $5,808 for on-campus room codes. They must have a 2 GPA or more, and the housing actually was expanded last year due to the pandemic. It was less, but now it is more because what happened with the pandemic, they decided to actually expand it, which is something good that the college actually decided to do that.
I agree. That's something I actually didn't know that Central Penn offered, so that's nice, especially since it's for full-time students and part-time students.
Yeah. Also, something that checked on the website is that Central Penn own the housing. There's not something that they actually rent. They actually have it. So they want the students to actually have the ability to come to a school and not to worry about where to stay or what to pay. They want to open the opportunity, but the student need to apply for it and be able to qualify.
Yeah, so when you're going to college, they want them to be able to focus on schooling and
Correct.
not have to worry about the cost of room and board and
Correct.
be able to focus. That's nice.
I mean, at least the prices are pretty low too. That's actually decently low from what I've noticed whenever I was researching some of this. Because in New York City, it was really expensive. It was up to, I think it was $4,000 or $14,000 per semester.
Wow, that's very expensive. I don't think so either a parent or student want to go through that. Because we have many independent students too. There are some that have the help of the parents, but some students are independent. So how they're going to work a part-time job plus going to school and be able to pay a place to live. And we have to think about it like not many people who have the choice to have a house to live. Like many students get approved for a school that is far away from home. They actually need to find out a place to stay either outside of the campus or inside campus. So there's not too much choice for them at that point.
Yeah, not to mention some of these students don't even work full-time either. So it'd be even harder to afford some of their living expenses if they're only working like part-time, maybe 30, 20 hours a week.
Correct.
How many students do you think actually work when they're living in campus?
I think so. Many students actually have some kind of work. I don't know if they will be qualified for any like assistance through the government, but to be able to maintain themselves, especially campus. From the people that actually going to school, I know many that had to pay for the meals too, and they are required to pay like a meal option, which is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So, the tuition will help you to pay for that, but you will have to like get something more for you to be able to survive too and pay for it.
Yeah, they had to afford their own groceries and their own, I guess, utility bills at the end of each month.
Correct.
I think you have to think about the students too who are out there on their own, who might be 17, 18 years old, graduating right out of high school, and they might just be approved for a loan or through FAFSA, and this scholarship through Central Penn or through another college might be the best option for them. So housing on campus might be better for them compared to off-campus housing.
Correct.
Yeah, that's true.
Completely agree.
Financially, yeah.
Well, that's my session right now. Okay, this is Omayra Martinez from the Student Station Podcast. Right now, we're going to pass to Brian, who is going to actually review the cost of living and information.
You are listening to the Student Station Podcast with Omayra, Brian, and Liana. Welcome back to the Student Station Podcast, where you are with Omayra, Liana, and Brian. And we're going to be talking about the cost of living and the information that goes along with it. So as of right now, the tuition is skyrocketing between different colleges, mostly because they are competitive in nature, just for students to be choosing them instead of another. So they're putting all these massive different rooms and I guess utilities and other different things in their campuses to make them seem better than another college to choose from. And Room and board also includes what you'll pay for to rent a dorm or an apartment, and it covers meal costs as well. Living off of campus could potentially reduce your living costs, which would cut down your education expenses. According to Kat Chetrina, she goes on about how living on campus can be more expensive than living off of campus, and how living off campus could actually save you money than living on campus.
Actually, Brian, I want to stop you there, but too, it's actually less expensive to live off campus. As an experience, I'm on my own home, and also I have rented a house or an apartment, and it is very expensive to actually. I cannot even imagine a student be able to pay a rent monthly plus whatever they need to, because when you're renting, you have to be paying utilities, you have to pay your food, you have to actually pay how to get to school. Maybe you take the bus, maybe you have a car, you need to put gas, all those kinds of expenses going through. So I don't know, it may possible depending what kind. Maybe they actually rent a room. I can see that possible, but renting a place near to a school, sometimes those places that are near to the school are more expensive than the ones far away. And it's needed for the student to be near to the school, so that way they are able to come to school, study, come to classes, do whatever they had to do. So it's more convenient for them. But the problem is that when they actually find something cheaper, it's too far away. So I guess that's an issue too that students, encounter every time that they're trying to leave a school, because many people want to have their own privacy too. They don't want to live with another person. Me, myself, I would like, as a student, to live by myself instead of sharing my room with somebody else.
Right.
But sometimes you don't have the option. You only have to do it because when you're trying to find something near to the school, it would be too expensive.
Yeah, that's also true. And that's where students need to really consider doing research when they're picking up their school of what they want to, which school to go to. They need to do the research of the cost of living at the school and then the cost of living around the school as well.
Do you think that the tuition being so high at some of these colleges will turn some students away?
Oh, guaranteed, most likely. Like, some students say that they want to go to their pick school that they've had since high school, and then they look at all the costs and they're probably just like, yeah, I can't do that.
And
I
end
can't
up
afford
going
it.
to a community college instead and probably getting
Right.
the same degree for
Yeah.
a lot cheaper and staying at home and commuting probably.
Yeah, because whenever I graduated high school, I wanted to go to Millersville, but then I saw the costs and I was just like, yeah, I'll just go to Hack. It's a
Yeah.
lot cheaper.
And sometimes that's the best option for a certain student.
Yeah. I mean, even in this article that I found, she uses the Millersville example, actually. She states that room and board at Millersville University in Pennsylvania is $11,988 per year. And over 4 years, you'd be paying $47,952 for your housing and meals. But if you moved off of campus and found a 3-bedroom apartment, if 3 people lived in the house and paid $14 or $415 per month, it would be only $4,980 per year per person. And then the average person spends $4,533 per year on food consumed at home, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you spent the same amount and prepared your meals in your apartment, you would spend a total of $9,513 on housing and food.
The cost cut is extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think you made the right decision not going there?
Yeah, 100%.
Still, it's like you say, maybe a person living by himself, it would be too expensive for them. But like yourself, if somebody actually decide to move with other people, it would be better to cut the cost, because now we have 3 people living in the same apartment, and they will be able to put out for whatever the rent is.
Oh, that's right. Especially nowadays, since rent and mortgages and everything keep going up and the interest rate just keeps going up as well. It just makes everything more expensive. So now students just are kind of forced to live with other people instead of being able to live on their own and work full-time and go to school full-time as well.
Correct.
Now, some colleges require meal plans.
Correct.
Do either of you know how that ties into the tuition cost?
I feel like it would be put into the room and board costs, and they show. I know Central Penn, they have different information about the student meal costs. So if you look at the college's website, they probably have information about how much each plan would cost for each student whenever they're looking into the college.
Yeah, I know Central Penn has on their website, they even have a meal plan for commuters as well.
Yeah, I did see that as well, but I'm still gonna just go ahead and buy my groceries
There
and
you go. But it's still nice to have it offered to you.
yeah, just in case. Well, they also have the food closet
Yes,
thing as well.
the food pantry.
Yeah, I'm sure that helps a lot of different students for I guess various reasons, depending on what their background is.
Yeah, if you can't afford things and you need an item, you can send that in to the administration here at Central Penn and send them a list of items that you need, like toiletry items or even snacks, and they'll send you like a big, basically goodie bag to your dorm or wherever you would like it sent, honestly, or you could come pick it up, which is really nice.
Right. And then another interesting thing that was brought up was that certain majors also cost a different amount too. So
Did
depending
not
on
know
your
that.
major, that also is going to affect your tuition. So it's not going to be just the room and board, but also what you plan on doing for a living. Like for certain majors like engineering, nursing, and businesses, they end up costing more than other programs.
I mean, I can see definitely nursing and engineering because I feel like those are kind of top tier majors, especially if you're going to a big name school and it's hard to get in. They're probably like, okay, how could we really rack up the costs here and try and get students in here if it's really competitive and you have a lot of nursing students applying? They're probably going to tack that on there.
Yeah, not just that, but they also have the lab fees that they need to worry about too.
That's true.
I forgot about those. Those are out of pocket that you have to pay. And then there's also my brother's going in for engineering, and he told me his total tuition cost, and it is double of what mine is.
Oh my gosh.
And he's going for constructional engineering at Penn State.
Well, there you go. That proves your point right
Yep,
there.
yep. It is outrageous with these prices and different majors and how those play a part into the tuition that you have to pay.
Well, that's good information for anybody who's thinking about going into a major like that, because that could really make or break it for somebody, because if they don't have the money for it, they're going to have to apply and apply and apply for scholarships, or they might have to choose something else.
Yeah, or they're just going to have to go for the whole tuition and just kind of suffer the consequences.
Yeah, go for it. Go for broke, really.
Yep. Then another thing that was here would be the average cost of tuition and fees for the public four-year university. For an in-state student, it is about $10,000 per year, but for a private student, it'd be about $35,000. So just the difference between a private and a public is detrimental too.
Yeah.
And this has been the Student Station podcast with Brian, Omayra, and Liana, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Student Station podcast with Brian, Liana, and Omayra. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Student Station podcast with Brian, Liana, and Omayra. Next, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of off and on-campus living. Before college students decide to live on or off campus, they must look at how they live and study on a day-to-day basis, and there's a lot of things to consider. Now, for myself, I've chosen to live off campus because of what we talked about before. A lot of the cost goes into it, and when you don't have the money to pay for college, you kind of lean towards that off-campus or commuter role, and I think that's what a lot of people tend to do nowadays because we do have online classes. And fortunately enough, that's something that's very prominent today, and even with the pandemic that happened as well, because online classes were booming because colleges were practically shut down and students were either home or locked in their dorms pretty much doing online classes. And if you were an off-campus student, you're kind of already
You're already there.
You were already there
Yeah.
pretty much. Like, it wasn't anything new to you. So that was kind of nice because you didn't have to adjust to something new. Sometimes students choose to live off campus because they have more individual freedoms. Like Omayra said before, there's privacy, there's space, and less distractions. When you're living in a dorm with 4 people, there might be partying going on or people up studying late at night. You don't know what's going on. And
it could be a mixture of both.
yeah, you want to be able to have your own privacy and your own space.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been online for most of my college career. Like at Hack, I transferred to online just because it was easier for me. I have my own computer, so I just kind of set it up that way. And then at the same time, I am more of an introvert anyways, so just being around all these people, I was just like, it's not really my cup of tea. So I just decided that online would just be easier, and it definitely is. To me, it's a pro because it's easier for me to learn when I'm doing it online versus when I'm on campus, because when I'm on campus, I'm just sitting there kind of like playing with my pen or getting distracted by stuff going around in class.
I agree. I do think there is benefits to on-campus classes and online classes as well, but it just depends on the person and their learning techniques as well, because if you're somebody who cannot teach yourself, then online is probably not the best option.
Yeah.
So, because it's very like high demand, self-discipline. You've got these deadlines to do. So if you cannot have somebody in front of you teaching yourself, then that's not for you.
Well, something that I want to add about that you just mentioned, that's something that personally happened to me. Sometimes you want to go on online classes, but you can't because there are some classes that only are available in school. So you're trying to wait for that time or that semester that that class is available for you to be able to come to school and take it, but you can't because certain circumstances, and you keep passing it. So sometimes the students don't have the ability to actually go and take the class online. They had to come to campus. So it's more better for them to just be in campus and take the class and be near the school because they have everything near to them instead of just be far away and have an offline class.
I agree. I think a lot of the times that's why people choose to stay on
Correct.
campus because, yeah, you're not saving as much money, but people will just pay the room and board tuition because then it involves them within the college community.
Correct.
And everybody always wants the college experience. You meet new friends, you get to know your professors, and most of the time your dorm is smack dab in the middle of everything. And if you have a class at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., okay, it's a short walk right over to my class rather than a 40, 30-minute drive to campus, or sometimes even an hour for people. So that's why a lot of the times people do just suck it up and pay the $11,000 for the room and board because they don't, in the end, it has its benefits. You have a lot of things on campus, like different facilities. They have gyms, they have cafeterias, all of that.
And the cost is included in that you don't have to pay for the gym. Like how much you spend only in monthly in gym costs.
Yeah, gym membership. Sometimes they're up to $30 and you're on campus, you can just walk down.
That
and
would be something good
work
for the athletes too, because they have the gym to be able to exercise and get ready themselves. They don't have to pay outside to go out and.
Well, our gym here at Central Penn, students that's maybe a 2-minute walk to the gym.
Yeah.
And they're redoing it. So now they're going to have a brand new gym, brand new equipment, and it's right there down the road to them. So,
well, I feel like another benefit for living on campus is also just the connections that you can make. Like whenever you're graduating from college and you use your professors or ask them for recommendations in something like that, or they actually have like a possible job for you after you just graduate. That could also be another thing too.
I agree. I think there's benefits to on and off housing or living, whichever way you want to say it, but it honestly depends on the person and their learning style, their living situation, and honestly how they want to go through their education process. And it's up to them. It's all about their decision and how they want to do it.
Yeah, they got to pick what's right for them.
Yeah.
With a little bit of influence from their parents, maybe.
Yeah. And learning how to kind of go to the adult stage helps as well. Whether you're getting the college experience or you're buying an apartment on your own, you're going to get
They get the
it from
experience,
both.
yeah. The experience and knowledge that they need for
'cause
later on.
you could go out and buy an apartment with your roommates that you had or people that you met in your classroom. And that tends to be what a lot of people do. They stay on campus the first year, they meet people at college, then they go rent an apartment with 3-4 other people.
Yep,
And
they
it just
make their
works
best
out that way.
friends.
Yep. And that's kind of how they end up saving money after that first year. Living off campus certainly holds some advantages. I think during this whole podcast, we've made some really good points about the pros and cons of living on and off campus. And I think it just goes down to the person in general, financially, their social aspects, and honestly about how they're going to get their education.
We have seen some schools requirements campus residency while others allow the students to choose. Students should be aware of the hiding costs of in and off-campus housing. Living on or off campus can drastically change your college experiences. It is important that students take some time to figure out their needs and what will benefit them the best, based on the individual preference, of course. It is up to the students to decide which college will best fit their needs. In the same time, however, they should make sure to do their own math and research when choosing between in or off-campus housing college. This will ensure they will be able to afford it depending on their degree. We want the incoming college students to figure out what they would be willing to borrow for each college of their choice. So this was Liana, Brian, and Omayra. Thank you for listening to the Student Station podcast.